Hey, everybody, and happy Monday. I hope you guys had a great weekend. It's good to see everybody again, and I hope you're having a great day so far. All right, we are starting a new section, not only a new unit, but a whole new branch of math, and that is called geometry. And if you are a visual person like myself, you may really like geometry. I remember when I was in school, I really liked it because of just I'm a visual person. I like drawing out my math problems, and geometry is essentially nothing but drawing and being able to understand mathematic drawings that you are shown. So it's not necessarily like drawing your favorite Pokemon or something like that. It's drawing mathematically, which is pretty neat. It's kind of neat. I was trying to look up the meaning of geometry, but I just kept finding definitions for it's a branch of mathematics that deals with blah 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 blah. But what I thought was interesting, if you're in my science classes, you may see that word geo, and you may remember what that may mean. But it means Earth, right? And then metry means measure, right? So I it gets me thinking like, did the phrasing of this initially come from people trying to measure the Earth? I don't know, but that's just kind of like a nerd sidetrack with that. All right, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to go through. My job today is going to be introducing the basics of geometry, the basic pieces that you guys need to understand before you move into higher levels of thinking when it comes to geometry. All right, so the first thing I want to talk about are points. All right, now I'm going to pause myself here because I'm getting a little bit ahead of myself. If there's any chance that you can get a sheet of blank paper to follow along with me, that would be perfect. Now, if you don't have blank paper, that's fine. You can use notebook paper. You can use scratch paper. Like, I have these little cutout scratch paper pieces over by our computer, anything. So if you can have something to where you can draw with me, that's perfect, right? But if not, that's fine. Just follow along. So if I were to put these random points on here like this, and those are points, right? But excuse me, if we were in the classroom and if I were to ask someone to come up and circle a specific point, it would kind of turn into like, people may say, well, this one. I'm like, no, not that one. And they maybe would say, well, how about that one? And like, no, not that one. How about that one? Nope, not it. Close. It would be somewhat frustrating, I think, for you to pick specifically what point I am talking about. So there's a few things here. Points are the basic parts of geometry. Okay, you're going to see them from here on out, basically, when we're talking about this. The other idea I want to mention is in geometry, you may hear the word plane, not like airplane soaring through the blue sky, but plane is the area where this work is being drawn. So, for example, right now, if you're drawing on a sheet of paper, if you put points on your paper is the plane. Okay. My plane is this section of my computer screen. Okay. So, what I've just done is I've placed 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 points on a plane. And right now, if I were to ask you to pick a specific point, you wouldn't be able to do that because you don't know which one I'm talking about. So in math, when you draw a point, you have to label it with a letter. That is point A. Okay. Now, for this work on this plane, I cannot reuse the letter A because if I label that one A and I label this one A again, these labels are worthless right now because if I said circle point A, well, is it this point A or is it that point A? And you don't know that. So you can reuse letters later on in other examples. Just because I've used A right now doesn't mean I can't use it ever again in my life. But in this example, on this plane, I can't use A again. So I can just go ahead and just label these. So that's point B, point C, point D, point E, point Z, point X, point Q. Now, some of you may be thinking like, you went out of alphabetic order. You can, okay? You can pick any letter you want out of the alphabet. If you're that type of person who your world works better if everything goes in order the way it should, that's fine. If you're not, you can use any letter you want as long as you don't repeat them, okay? So I could call that point T. I'm going to make sure I'm not repeating point R. I haven't used Y, so I'll put Y over here. And then why not? I'll go W. Why not? Right here. Okay. Now I have given specific labels to these points. Okay. Now, if I were to say, okay, pretending we could do this, if I said, who wants to come up and circle point X, you know exactly point X right here. If I told someone to connect, and we're going to talk about this in like 30 seconds, what this means, connect point Y and T, okay, you would go, all right, so here's why I need to connect it to point T right there. See? For example, if I said, all right, let's put an X on point B, you know what I'm talking about right here. Before, without the labels, you had no idea what point I was talking about. These labels make it very easy to identify these points, okay? Points are the basics, right? So let's take a look at the next one here. There they go, perfect. The next example here for us to take a look at are lines. Okay, now we have the idea of lines in our head, like in art class, if an art teacher tells you to draw a squiggly line or draw a straight line. But in math, in geometry, there is a specific definition of lines and how they work. Okay, so this is how we draw them, and this is how we label them. So I am going to draw a straight line. Lines are straight in math. There's no wiggle to them or curve to them. They're straight as possible. Now, if you're looking at that and be like, well, that's a kind of a little bent. If you have a ruler, perfect. And this is as straight as I can get it. Now, look, lines, this is what they need. They need arrows at both ends. What those arrows at each end represent is that they are, now I got to make my arms fit inside my screen here. That line is going off in both directions, this way and that way, and never stopping. So we can't physically draw a line that never ends, because you would die, and then your grandkids would have to keep drawing the line for you. So this shows that it goes on forever and ever in both directions. To name this, we need to put points, okay? So for example, I'm putting 2 points on there right now. Okay, it's kind of like a connect the dot type thing. And I can name these points anything I want. So I'm going to say TM. All right. So here's how I can name this. Check this out. So this is a line, goes off in both directions forever and ever, never ever stops, right? And this is how I can name it. I can say this is line TM, and I'm going to draw just a tiny symbol of a line above that, TM, right? Or I can name this MT. So this line has 2 names to it, TM or MT, okay? So if I came up, let's see what this looks like. See if it will allow me to do this. Perfect. If I come back to my points, okay, these random points that I drew, and if someone said, okay, I want you to draw, I'm going to look at that little symbol right here, line, ZW. All right, so I'm going to look for point Z and point W, and what I'm going to do is I'm just going to connect it as best I can there, and I'm going to draw those little arrows going off in that direction, right? Lines go in both directions, never ever stop. There's arrows at both ends, and that symbol at the top shows that. It is named ZW, or we could say WZ. That's that line that I just drew. Okay? All right. So let's come here. So let's do this. Let's practice this. Now, if you have paper, perfect. And let's try this out. Okay. Let's take I've already used M and I've already used T. I don't want to reuse the same letters on the same plane. Okay. So let's go for another example here. Let's go line A P. Okay. We use capital letters here. So what is that telling us? That's telling us that I need 2 points. One is labeled A, one is labeled P. Okay. So try to draw this on your own real quick. Nice job, everybody. Good work. Don't lean in your chair, you'll fall out. All right, here we go. All right, so if you want to start out like this, okay, so here's line A, and I'm going to put line P up here because lines don't always have to go horizontally. They can go vertically up and down, they can go diagonally, they can go in any direction, as long as they are as straight as you can make them, and you show these arrows going in either direction. That is line AP. Another way we can name this, AP, we could also say this is PA. Okay, I'm going to put that little symbol at the top to tell people that this is a line. The symbols are just mini versions of what the actual thing looks like. These are lines. Okay, next thing are line segments. Line segments. Now, when we're taking a look at a segment of something, that means we're looking at just a part of it. Okay, so this is what a line segment looks like. A line segment has an end and it has a beginning, or has a beginning and it has an end. It has a clear stop, right? There is an end to it. It's not like a line that goes off in every direction, right? You got to make the sound when you're doing a line. It has segment, segment, end, end, end points, right? So here we have this end point, and it's one of those very creative names. Why do we call it an end point? Because it's a point at the end, right? Excuse me. So I'm going to draw it like this. I'm going to draw 2 points, and then I'm going to connect them. This is a line segment, okay? And I'm going to label that as BT. Line segment BT. So we can name that. Here's how you draw the tiny symbol for a line segment, just a line. And then it's BT. And I should have said it's just a line with no arrows. So it's a line segment, right? I want to mathematically remember a line has the arrows that go off in both directions, right? Or what's another name for it? Line TB. Okay, that's it. Line segment. Starts, ends. Starts over here, ends here. Either way, that's it. That is completely it. So if I go back up to my points, right here, I drew a good example of a line segment when I said to connect point Y and point T. Look, it starts here, ends here. That's it. Beginning, end. So I could say, all right, that is line segment YT, or what's another name for it? Dora the Explorer moment. If you said TY, you are correct. YT or TY. This goes on forever and ever, never stops. That's what the arrows are showing us. No arrows, completely stops, ends, right? Begins, ends, right here. Okay, let's scroll down a little bit more. All right, let's take a look. So if I were to draw, let me change up the color a little bit. Let's go kind of this orangey color. No, I don't like that. Let's go aqua, whatever, aqua color that is. Okay, so if I were to draw this line segment, look, end point. Why? Because it's a point at the end. And look, this is also an end point because that's a point at the other end. And if I were to label this, I don't want to use BT again on the same plane. So let's go WE. How would you name that? Like, how would you name that line segment? Okay, if you said line segment WE, that is one way you can name it. Another way would be EW. Don't forget that symbol at the top. Okay, because if you just say EW, like I almost left it, what is that a line? Is that a line segment? Is that the next thing we're going to talk about? So when you draw that little symbol across the top, that tells people what you're talking about. Okay, line segments. All right, so let's look at that again real fast. Lines go in both directions and never stop. They're labeled with a smaller version of itself, with little arrows. This one here is TM or MT, that way. Line segments have a very clear beginning and end, marked by end points because they're points at the end. In this case, it is BT or TB. And then the last one we're going to talk about here are rays. Rays, they are a mashup of line segments and lines. Let me show you what I'm talking about here. Rays have a starting point. They have a point where they start and they go off in this direction and they never ever stop. So they are a mix of both lines and line segments. Think of it like that. Okay, now for rays, you're still going to name them. I'll just use RY. Okay, why not? Okay, now there is a specific way to name these. Before, of line segments and lines, you could go back and forth, but rays are different. Rays, you look at where it starts, that is your first letter. This is how I think about it. Two things I think about, because I always make up weird ways to remember stuff. One, think of like a ray of sunshine, where it starts at the sun and it just shoots off through the universe, right? Or this was an idea that came up. A kid thought of this a couple years ago that I thought was great. They said it's like a ray gun. This is the person holding it, and when they shoot the ray gun, it shoots the. So if that works, use it. So it starts here at R. That is my first letter. And then the next point is Y. Now look, here's how you draw it. Starts at R, goes this direction like that. Ray, RY. If I draw another one, okay, because I don't want to get into the bad habit of only drawing them one way. What if I drew a ray that is going like this, and I label that ray EM? There's only one way to name it. You have to look where it starts here, shoots off in that direction, like a ray of sunshine or a ray gun, right? Whatever one you want. So this is EM. Starts here, goes in that direction. Okay? Okay. So let's look at a few more examples here, and then we'll call it a day. All right, so I want to show you this. I'm going to include this in the Google Classroom. If this helps you, I'm going to add this into the Google Doc that you're going to be turning in. If this helps you, these are quick examples to help you out with that. Sometimes you may see a drawing that looks like this, and you're asked to, and this is going to be in the Google Doc. So I'm going to give you some examples of this, and we'll work through it together. So if I wanted to say the points, just the points, what do you see? Well, I see point A, point B, point C, point D. Okay? But what if I said, all right, I want a line. Okay? Do you see something that has arrows at both ends going off in both directions? Doesn't have to be side to side or up and down or diagonal. It can be in any direction as long as it's straight and has an arrow at both sides. Do you see an example of that? Okay. There's a couple of them. We could say line AB. I'm not going to label all of them because I want this video to not take too long. Look, AB, arrows at both sides and going off in that direction. Okay. We could see line BD. Now remember, we could also say DB or ABA. Look, BD like this, okay? We could even say line AC going this way, okay? What if I said, I'm going to abbreviate this just for the sake of time. What if I said line segment? Line segment. Do you see a segment of a line where there is a very clear beginning and end to this? All right, sorry, my computer is doing that. All right, back to it. So line segment, if you said CD, or we could say DC, that works as well. That is a line segment. Look, endpoint, endpoint, it stops. Looking at this, we could say rays, okay, there's some rays here that we could pick out. We could say BD, but we would have to show that it's starting at B and going through D. Okay, that's one way you could say it. All right, so let's look at this real quick. Let's look at this. All right, run through a couple of these real quick. What is this? Simple drawing. What is it? Is it a line segment, or a ray? Now look, it has a point, shoots off in that direction, never stops. This is a ray. Brilliant. How about this one? Line segment, or array? It has two arrows, one arrow at each end saying it's going off in both directions. If you said this is a line, you are correct. How about this one? No arrows at all. Has a very clear beginning and end, endpoint, endpoint. If you said line segment, you are correct. How about this one? It's a ray. Oh, this is great. Great. They're throwing some letters at us. Which figure shows YZ? Now look at that little symbol at the top. It has only an arrow at one side. It starts at Y and it goes through Z. So what I'm looking at is I'm looking at this one right here. This is ray YZ. What's the name of this figure? Well, it's using the letters CD. They're both using that. Now I want to look at the drawing. It has arrows at both sides. That means it's a line. So I want to look for the symbol that matches that. Look, this no arrows, only one arrow, and then this one has two. This is line CD. There we go. Got it. How about this one? This is a ray. Starts at U, goes through V. It's right here. Ray UV. Awesome. And we reached our limit. All right, guys. That is the intro and lesson to that. If you need any help, please let me know. Watch this video again. I've included another video that's a little shorter than this one from another teacher to watch if you need help with this. And then there's going to be a Google Doc for you to turn in, and we'll check your understanding that way. I hope you all have a great day.